Oh, my name is Tommy Tahara, and then I was stationed at Camp Shimofinik in Sendai, Japan, before the Korean War. That was in 1950, right? And then when the Korean War started, I was in the 7th Division, Company E, no, Company F, Fox Company, they call it, Fox Company. And then I was stationed in Camp Shimofinik. And then, what do you call it, when the war started, they took a lot of our personnel from our company and put them in the 24th and 25th Division. So we were left with a skeleton crew, our company. So actually, we went in August, we went to Camp Fuji and we were waiting for the Katusas to come in. They picked up all the young kids or whomever, old men from Korea, and they loaded up them on the ship and they shipped them to Yokohama, and then they trained them to Camp Fuji. That was in August of 1950. And one of my friend, he's in our chapter, he's a Katusa, his name is Sok. And then he was with the 7th Division. Our 7th Division, we had about 9,000 Katusas. And then every company had about 100 Katusas. In other words, that made us, combat ready. But we had to train those guys because they came from Korea, and when they hit our cafeteria, our kitchen, they get a cup of coffee. They put about 10 teaspoonful of sugar in there because sugar was they couldn't get it in Korea. But anyway, they were terrible. They had diarrhea and all that after that. But after we trained them for about 3 weeks, and then we loaded up on a ship and we sailed to Korea. And we waited in Busan Harbor, and we waited outside of Busan Harbor, and waited for Operation Chromite. That was invasion of Korea with the 1st Marine Division and the 7th Division, Infantry Division. Anyway, I was with the 17th Infantry Regiment, and my friend Sok was with the 31st Infantry Regiment. And we landed in Incheon, and then we headed towards Seoul. But at that time when we left, we were still young. I was only just made 19 years old, and then we saw all the dead bodies all over the train station, civilians and all that. First time we saw all those dead bodies. But mostly it was Korean civilians over there. I guess they got killed by the bombing and all that artillery on the ships, because we had over 100 ships outside of Incheon. Anyway, after that we went to we had the first battle. It was a hill over Seoul, and then it's the first time I saw bullets flying all over my head, and my buddy right next to me, he got shot right in the throat. Right there, he was standing right next to me, and he got shot in the throat. And you know how frightened you get, because it's the first time you see a guy bleeding from the throat now. Anyway, after that, we headed towards Suwon, on the Suwon side, down south, because the North Koreans were retreating back. They were coming back from the Nakton River side. They were coming back up, and we were going down and meeting them. So we had some few battles over there, around close to Suwon, around there. And later on in almost October, we had a convoy down to Busan. And from Busan, we loaded up on our LST, and then we headed up north on what sea is that, Japan Sea, all the way up north. And then we passed Wonsan, and we landed in Iwon. That was in November of 1950. So you see the 7th Division had 3 regiments: the 17th Infantry Regiment, the 31st Infantry Regiment, and the 32nd Infantry Regiment. And I was with the 17th. Okay, I think the 31st one on our left, there towards the Marine side, the 1st Marine Division. They came up from Wonsan, right in the, what do you call, Changju, or anyway, they call it Chosen Reservoir, yeah? I think they call it Changjin, that area. Anyway, the Marines were on the left side of the reservoir, and then a couple of battalions of the 31st and 32nd went on the right side of the hill, and our friend Sok was in the 31st. He was on that side. And I was 17, we went up way up to Cape San, about 80 miles above the town, Chosin Reservoir. We right up to Cape San, and then went to Heisanjin. It was right on the Yellow River over there. And we stayed there about, I was in October. Yeah. It was in October, November anyway. That's when the first time I saw snow. You know, the first time I saw snow, I'm from Hawaii, and it was really warm. And I think it just like cotton falling down. You know? I'm so excited. Anyway, we went inside Cape San first before Heisanjin by the Yellow River, and then our troops, we found a reindeer stockade over there. So the guy shot one reindeer, and that was before Thanksgiving now. So they hang up the reindeer and they cut it all up, you know. And I think I ate some. I'm not sure, I forgot already. Anyway, after that, we stayed in what do you call Heisanjin for a couple of weeks over there. And you know, Manchurian winter came down right now. It was so cold. So anyway, right about that time, the Chinese came down right through the, I don't know what mountains is that, Tibet or something like that. And then the Chinese kept pouring in, so we had to retreat. So what we did was, I think we burned a lot of our equipment, the truck and the clothing and whatever. We couldn't carry, we had to burn it. And then we kind of retreated back. And then I think, that was must have been about 100 miles to Hamhung, Hamhung, Hamhung. And then I think in a couple of weeks we entered Hamhung and we set up a base outside because the first Marine was trapped inside there by a Chosin Reservoir with about 2-3 regiment of the 7th Division, 31st and 32nd. I think that was called Task Force Fate, I think. Anyway, so we were down by Hamhung and then we set up a position over there. And what do you call, when the Marines got to the trap over there, they escaped. They came down to Hangnam, and then we went to Hamhung. That's where they had a big port over there. And we had so many ships out there, Japanese ships and all kind of ships, because we had to escape, like, you know, we had to get away. Whatever equipment we could carry, and then we loaded up on a ship. It was in almost December, almost Christmas time. And the whole division loaded up on a ship, LSC or whatever. And then we headed to Busan. I think the last outfit that left there was the 3rd Division. They were the last one. They had to blow up all that place, that Hangnam, the port over there. And then December, Christmas, our New Year's, we were in Busan, and then we had frostbite. Most of us had frostbite because of cold, you know. Sometimes it was about 30 to 40 below zero, and the wind was terrible. I mean, you know, you cannot go outside and just use the toilet over there because it's so cold. You can, you know what I mean? 30, 40 below zero. So all our hands all black. You see my hands already have to. Anyway, we went to Seoul, Busan. We went to America and they checked us out. And I guess at that time too, when you ask, we look Oriental, we look like a South Korean troop, you know. So they get something out. At that time, in the 50s, we had a racial turmoil between Caucasian and Asian. They call us books like that, you know. Even though I'm in the American, but since I'm Asiatic and I look like the South Koreans or whatever, and they look down on us, some of them. And some of them are nice. But anyway, after that, in January of 51, we went up north again. And then we set up position, maybe I think we went to north. But I remember we went to Chipyeongni, I don't know, someplace in there. They said Chipyeongni had a gold mine, so everybody think, oh, we got up there, we got a gold mine and get some gold. Anyway. And then we went up to Wonju, and then later on went to this, the reservoir over there, I forget what was that, Watchon or something like that. And then, yeah, we had a lot of fighting over there. And actually, scariest fighting we had was in February of 1951. At night, it's the first time we had a attack from what do you call, like the banzai attack, where all the just shoot the flares up in the air, and the trumpet, the bugle and all that, and they come charging up. Yeah, that was the scariest. Because you're young, you're only 19 years old. Yeah. Anyway, that was the first experience. After that, you got kind of used to it. Because at the dark, you just keep firing, you don't know who you're shooting at because it's so dark, yeah. And a lot of our troops died, In fact, the scariest thing is when you sleep in a foxhole and you wake up in the morning and your companion is missing because the Chinese come and you're in a sleeping bag sleeping. They grab the sleeping bag and drag you. They drag you. So when you look, your body is gone. It's very scary. So actually, when I came back home, I used to get nightmares. When you're in bed, you get what they call PTSD. Sometimes you're screaming in bed and you're yelling. Yeah, it was like that all those years. Anyway, after in June of 1951, they gave me what do you call rotated. They rotated me out because I had enough points. So instead of coming back to Hawaii, I met my friend in Sasebo. And you know what he did? My friend, he went to personnel and he changed my order, saying that I'm going to what do you call I'm going to the East Coast with him. And he gave my name and his address. So they shipped me over to on a ship, and we went to San Francisco. And the three of us, my friends, we caught a train all the way to Chicago, and from Chicago caught another train to Baltimore. Went to Baltimore. In Baltimore, my friend, they had a wealthy family. They had a hotel, like an inn, a restaurant, and a barber shop. So my friend's dad, he bought him a new convertible, Ford convertible, and that was in '51. Let me see, was July, I was in August, September, 2 months. I would stay with him at Baltimore, we call Baltimore, anyway. We had a lot of fun. Then we separated. He went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and they sent me up to Fort Hicks, New Jersey. So I was with the 39th, the 9th Infantry Division, 39th Infantry Regiment. That was a basic training company. And then, see, I couldn't stand that New Jersey weather. It was terrible. It was so cold, from the Atlantic Ocean. Because I had all frozen hands, fingers. I didn't like the cold, so I said, I need a transfer. So they tell me, where you want to go? They gave me three options. 3S, I don't know where 3S is in Europe, something. Or Germany, or Japan. So when they say Japan, I said, oh, okay, I'll go back to Japan. So they sent me back to Japan. But you know where they sent me? They sent me with the first cab. The first cab came back from Korea to Hokkaido. It was way up in Hokkaido. I went with they sent me to the the first cab, 7th Cavalry Regiment in Sapporo, outside Camp Crawford. So we had ski training over there. And anyway, I was there for about 2 months. Then I went AWOL, AWOL. And when I came back after about a week, they threw me in the brig. And then all the guys in the brig, wow, they sent us back to Korea. Instead of giving us court martial, they sent us all back to Korea. So I ended up with the 3rd Division. So 3rd Division, when I went there, I was in the 2nd Battalion. They sent me to 2nd Battalion, 7th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Division. This guy, they sent me to this headquarters company. It's like, what do you call, this Japanese guy, Koto. He was handling this squad of Koreans who could speak Chinese on all kind, Shanghai and Mandarin and all that. And then they could speak Japanese, and of course Korean, you know. So anyway, a squad of 12, they call it the Kingfisher. So I was put in charge of that. I was the squad leader for that. There was all Koreans. And they know Japanese. I could speak a little Japanese, so that's why they put me in there. Anyway, what we did was everybody, we had this radio, and we listened to the, what do you call, the Chinese and what the North Koreans, whatever they say on their radio when they communicate, we intercept them and they try to decode what they're saying. You know, like they're all talking, well, they call it Anglo, like in code. You know, the Chinese, they talk in code. So they translate to me in Japanese, and I try to translate it in English to the battalion headquarters. Most of the time we were up on the hill because when we send out our patrol at night, that's when we have to listen to see if the enemy is the keen on the patrol that's coming in. So anyway, sometimes when we're up on the lookout, way up there, and then we're looking down, and the Chinese throw artillery, you know, tons of artillery on us. In fact, one time the artillery was so close, it hit our bunker and then blasted us. So it must have been only about 4 feet or 5 feet in front of them. Blasted the whole bunker. And I had 3 Koreans with me, translators. All of us were knocked out inside the bunker. And before I know it, I was on a helicopter. They sent us back because my eardrums was busted. Couldn't hear, I had concussion. And then, so they sent me back to the back. I don't know how far back we went by helicopter. It's the first time I rode helicopter and I was so scared. You know, helicopter so nice, so small. Those days the helicopters were small. Anyway, I was there for about almost 1 month. And they sent me back to the company, and you know what? To this day, I cannot remember anybody, the first sergeant, the captain, in the 3rd division, that time. When I came back, I don't know how I came back, and it took me months and years to find out how I came back. And like I had PTSD. Anyway, when I came back in 1953, I'm telling you, I didn't know what to do because I couldn't remember a lot of stuff. It was because of that concussion and all that. My doctor said maybe I had some kind of amnesia, you know, I forget, yeah. And those days we didn't have this kind of VA and all that. I had to go to a private doctor. And the private doctor said, my hands were all blue and cold. They thought I had Raynaud disease. So I had to quit smoke, and then I had to quit drinking coffee because it affected my hands. So to this day, I don't drink coffee or smoke. I used to smoke 2 packs a day, but it's okay. Anyway, after that, when I came home in '53, I found a job in the Marshall Islands with the AEC, Atomic Energy Commission. We were testing those atomic bombs or hydrogen bomb. So we were a service company, Holmes and Novel, and in let me say, November, I went down to the Marshall Islands. We stayed at Eniwetok Atoll. Eniwetok Atoll has about 22 small islands, and we were on Perry Island. And then what we did was, our company was service the scientists, the army personnel there, you know, with food, we clean their house, laundry, everything. It's the kind of job we had. Anyway, I stayed there for about a year and a half. Then I came home for a couple of months. Then I went back, and I did that for about 6 years until from end of 1953 to about almost 1959. Almost 6 years I did that, you know. And after that, when I came back, I worked for the U.S. Post Office. And then at the post office, I was assigned as to deliver mail. At that time, they were delivering mail with a motorcycle with a sidecar. We put all the mail in a sidecar, and then we deliver the mail. So actually, after that, we had trucks, you know, all different kind of trucks. And During the 44 years I worked as a carrier, I got beat 6 times by dogs. Because at first, when you ride the motorcycle, we didn't have any leash law in Hawaii. Leash law is, you gotta leash the dogs. But the dogs were all running loose all over the place. And they chase the motorcycle and they jump on you and they bite you. I got beat 6 times. Anyway, after that, they had the leash law, so they had to tie down the dog or put them in a fenced house so they cannot be running around loose. So I worked 44 years as a carrier, and then I retired in 2004. And that's about it.
And right now you play such a, instrumental
then
role.
in 1998, I joined our chapter 1. And then later on, 1998 and about 2006 or 2007, I started helping out the POW MIA guys. They used to come every year for a reunion every year. We had a guy named ex-POW, Nick Nishimoto, and he used to handle that, and I used to help him. We go down to Halekoa. Anyway, that's how I learned how to do things, how to make a reunion and all that. After I knew how to do it, and I have contact with all the personnel down in Hickam, down in the Camp Smith, Peckham, and then me and another guy, we did all our chapters of event, like even Punch Bowl event or the kind of whatever event we have, we celebrating Christmas or whatever.
What does it mean to you, the legacy of Korean War veterans?
What's that?
The legacy of Korean War veterans. What is it to you?
At first, we didn't know where Korea was actually. I'm telling you. But we heard of Korea, but it just, but when we went there, the first thing we saw was, the Koreans at that time, they always walk with a hat, what do you call it, long hat, the black hat.
The cut.
Yeah, with the horse hair.
Yes, cut.
And they get white shirt. Everybody wore white those days. And then the smell, the smell of the, what do you call that thing, honey bucket. They use that as fertilizer, yeah. They pick all the waste from each house, they put in a bucket, and they get the ox to move it, and we could see that, and what they did was they threw that thing that they do into the rice field now as a fertilizer, But that's the first time we seen it. Anyway, Korea, when we left over there, it was a wreck. I mean, nothing. Everything was flat. And then I was surprised when I came back for the revisit. I think it was in 2001, the first time I came back. Wow, everything was built. Incheon, those big towers, all that. I was really surprised. I tell you, the Koreans, they really worked hard and they did a good job. And I guess they always respect the soldiers or whatever for helping them. Because if it wasn't for American soldiers and all the soldiers from the different countries that helped Korea would be, just like nothing, just like the North now. Look at the North, at night you cannot even see the lights. So anyway, I'm really thankful that Korea is what it is today. Okay.